Now guys, I gotta warn you, this video is long, it is boring, but it is all the details and how I did it.
The next day.
A little bit more sanding to do, but got the majority off with the CNC. Let's do the other side. I literally just spilt a bottle of water, a cup of water, all over the bench. But anyways, I went and got some water weld, got some water because it's easier to smooth out with a wet finger. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an area for the safety right here, along with right here, and probably or possibly build a channel that goes all the way down to cover this section as well. We don't have to, but I think I'm going to do it. The only other option is when, at the time of forming, I tape this to it, and I'm gonna build something into it, so I really don't have to work on it at all. The only thing I have to put on is whatever IWB or OWB attachment it's gonna be. So I'm gonna get some water weld out, and before I put this stuff on, I am actually just gonna go ahead and mark up this area right here because it's gonna go right on top of that and go straight across. So this area, same thing, but I already marked it up a little bit. I'm going to mark up a little bit more, so I'll be right back before that. Go a little bit lower than I wanted to right here, which, there I could put tape on it, but I'm actually just going to put a small layer of either Bondo or this back on it and sand it back down. Because like I said, I went a little bit too deep, and I realized it when I skipped a spot, but it is what it is, and I'm just going to move on. So I'm going to start with this one because this one's just going to be easier. Obviously, this can flip up, so pretty much from here all the way over is just going to be a block, and we'll shape it so it's a little bit aesthetically pleasing. Some water on the fingers. And once this turns a uniform off-white, slight gray, then you're okay to use it. Let's just start with half, get it in there, and obviously we know that we have to be above that, so as long as that's not seen, we'll be okay. And I'm also going to use stuff to make the lines nice. Don't be afraid to use the blocking that you have. And remember, we don't even technically have to do this because we got the CNC machine. So there's that. Now let's work it. Let's see, we got a little bit more right here. A nice little angle to it, and just clean that off. And we'll have to do this part again. Put, see it just poking up on the top there. Let's work that into it. Go ahead, I'm just going to chop the back off right there. Add it right here, actually. And remember, you could do this shaping after, but I figured I'll save a little bit of time by doing it right now. Yeah, I think that's good. And then once it's done, we'll sand it smooth and round out a couple edges. You see, that's what it looks like right there. And I'm not even going to worry about that because that part gets cut off. So really, we're only talking about that right there that we need. So, yeah, it looks like a little dip right there, actually. So this piece is done because there's really nothing left to do on this one other than fill this in, but we're going to do that at the end. Oh, obviously, actually, we have that right there. Completely forgot about that one. So let me cut that consideration. So we got to build this up right here, which that pretty much does it, and then fill in the gap behind it. Hair out of there. Here we go. And then we'll just spend the time and clean it up after. You know, it's like painting a car. The more body work and prep you do, the better the paint will be. There we go. So we got that. Let's get a nice line. There we go. And then this is all going to be filled with epoxy anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. So bam, there is one half, and we'll just let that harden, which it's already there, almost there. So yeah. And this side, like I said, we're going to do a little bit more. We're going to pile it up all the way. We're just going to put a fence here. And that's going to go straight across to here, and then we're just going to go pretty much right along that line, and then this is going to be filled in by this DevCon 2-part epoxy. This is not a gel, it's liquid form, so it flows and levels itself out, so this is what you want to use, and that's what we're going to use inside this as well. But we're going to, like I said, we're going to do this first, and then after the fact, I'm going to go ahead and do the blocking for the side channel, and that's all that's left, honestly. We still do have to do a retention plate, because at the moment, right now, if we don't do a retention plate, there's going to be no adjustable retention, because all we did was cut it in half. So there's going to be just a little bit of gap, and we don't want that. We want at least a 1/4 inch, which means we need to find 1/8 inch material and trace this around it and cut it in half. And then we're going to make a slightly larger muzzle or threaded barrel cover, so there's no indent right there. And I'm going to do that with copper pipe as well, like you've seen before. So we're going to go ahead and work on that, and I will epoxy that in as well. So let's get all this filled in and see how it looks. This one we're going to need quite a bit, but it's pretty much start out somewhere. All right, and there is, there we go. I'm going to push it up against that to get the nice square, and the height looks actually pretty good too. Let's make some more. Doesn't have to be as tall, because all there is that little, we'll call it a button, but it's the pin. There we go. Yeah, because that doesn't have to be that high. Not too bad. Like I said, we're going to be CNCing this down, so I'm just going to fill that gap. Open that up now. Of course, it's going to pull some with it. Of course, just hit it with my finger. And obviously it does not need to be that tall, as long as it clears. As long as it clears the controls, I really don't care. But this side, I just wanted to use the diameter of the rod to kind of get that to where it looks good. And like I said, this is a lot taller than it needs to be, and I'm going to go ahead and I will cut it on the CNC, so I don't know why I'm actually wasting my time here doing this part, but we'll get this wet a little bit and kind of smoothing that out. Just the sides here. because this switch is all the way down, so that can't go down anymore, and when it's up, it's going to be within that parameter. So here's a side profile. A little bit of the hill right there. There we go. All right, get this out right here. We don't need that. And it's starting to harden on us, so that's good. Looks like we used just the right amount. We don't need this part. I'll go ahead and cut that and see if I could get that up a little bit. And like I said, it's still going to get CNC'd at the end. So I just want to build it up. Okay. And that'll also flatten it out too. Alright, and then we still have to do right here. And then, like I said, this I'm just going to fill with epoxy because it's just going to be self-leveling, and then I really won't have to worry about it. And we have to bust that epoxy out later anyway, so I'm not worried about it. Put that there. So let's get that. Okay, and then, like I said, I could get this just squished down onto here. I'll fill that back up like it needs to be. There we go. Right, and that is pushed down. So really, all I need to do is let this dry now. Oh, I did. I moved that. I had that pretty good. There we go. All right, I'm going to let that harden, and then we'll move on. as you see, it's literally a day later, well, about 12 hours later when I started this, I kept messing up. I kept going too deep or nicking this, so I kept having to refill it and remachine it. So there it is right there. And so as you can see, the profile we have for that. So like I said, a lot of that. This I'm going to shape later. And what I just did, I didn't film it because it's slow and boring, but what I need to do to create a a 1/4 inch retention plate is I need 2 1/8 inch plates. And since I'm nowhere near Home Depot, it's also 11:30 at night, I went ahead and took 1/4 inch MDF, which is what I used for the retention plate, and honestly I just milled it in half. So I just planed it to 0.125, which is an 1/8 inch, and then what I'm going to do is trace what I need, and that's going to give me the retention plate that that we need. So that'll give us the 1/8 inch on each side will give us a 1/4 inch space. If I left it at a 1/4, it would have given us a 1/2 inch space, so keep that in mind. So once I set the distance, so what I'm going to do is figure out the distance right here, and once I do that, I'm going to trace it, and then we'll cut that on the scroll saw, and then that is our retention. It's going to stay in with the sight channel, and then we're going to have to block right here with pretty much making one of these again. I'm going to make one similar to this because I'm not going to cut this up, and then go ahead and cut it to fit, and then we can go ahead and do blocking and just have fun with it. So one step closer, should be fun. And what I did is, because this was very boring, going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, but I went to, for example, my FNX 45, which is a thick boy, and went ahead and measured this at 1.292, and so what I did is I locked that in place. If I could get it in the hole here, here we go. And I measured this the same distance, right here and right here, as you can see. And then I outlined it. So I'm going to go ahead, cut this out, and that's our retention plate right there. And our retention plate right there. And it's also going to help out with our sight channel. So this right here is what we're keeping. That right there is what we're throwing out. And all I got to do is cut it and don't break it. And all said and done, this is what it looks like. So a couple things left to do, and then we are ready for our first pull. Number one is we're going to have to hot glue in here, and that will give us the seal, so when I pour the glue in there it doesn't leak out, because that'll royally suck. And then after that I have to do our sight channel. So if we pick it up, as you can see, these posts right here, we need that all the way back, and to do that I am going to go ahead and cut a piece of MDF, get it to fit, sand it just like I did, but I'm going to do that before I glue these down, because like I said, I am making a permanent vacuum mold for the Mark 23. Alright guys, so it is midnight. I have done a lot. Actually, let's take a peek of what I got going on here. So I filled in the sight channel because I actually don't need to do it, because it's the 1/8 inch is deep enough, so I don't have to do it. As you can see, I got a weight on here, and obviously weights on the front end so it doesn't pick up or bow or anything like that. I'm gonna let this stuff dry, and then I'll sand that in the morning. And as you can see right here, I have these all set, and they are the ones that are going on the sight channel on the inside, so that the sight mount itself has something as a channel. So literally after this, which it's midnight now, so when I wake up and I come in the morning, this should be fine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start the epoxy process and get the trigger guard all set up, and that's going to be 2 separate pulls. So we're going to do a little bit of hot glue around the edge, then we're going to do a self-leveling epoxy, and then we're going to have to do water weld on top of that because it's at an angle, and self-leveling epoxy will not work on that. So until then, I'm going to go have some bacon at midnight because it hits different. I'm going to go to bed, and I'll see you in the morning. And it is the next day, and I went ahead, I used a file, and I filed down these right here, so they're now flush. I filed those guys right here, and I have the hot glue gun out, and we are warming up. I already scored in here, and that way the glue has something to grip to, and we're just going to seal around the edge on the inside on both of them, and then we're going to glue these pieces in, which go right here, and then the only thing left to do after that is somewhat shape the trigger guard for the magazine release, and then fill in that what we need to, because if you notice, see how it's higher up here? That means if we go straight across, it's going to have more retention on the top side than on the bottom, and it's just, it won't feel right. So what we're going to do is we're going to make it even going up, and we're going to do that with some water weld after the fact. But for the most part, it's looking pretty good. We're going to wipe it down later on, and then we're going to add all our blocking, make a pole, and see how it goes. Alright, let's see what we do here. You know what, might as well. Hot glue isn't really self-leveling, but only because it takes a little bit longer. But if I use a little bit more, I don't have to use as much epoxy. Plus, I really don't want it to melt with the Kydex. Right. It's doing pretty good what it needs to do. Alright, and I'm going to two-part epoxy these in so I don't have to worry about them. And to do that, I should actually score the tops. So I'm going to go do that real quick without disturbing the glue. I have to go to the store, grab some. All right, see, the epoxy is settling. It's all smooth right there as well. This side's looking real good. So that corner right there, I was thinking I was going to have a little bit of an issue, but honestly, I might just leave it as it is and go from there. So before I do anything, I'm going to let this all dry. I just turned the heat press on. I'm going to let it sit underneath the heat press. And then I just got to do a little bit of smoothing of these guys. You know, I could have done it prior to this, but I don't care. And then, again, before I even pull anything, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drill a couple pilot holes underneath, and I'm going to actually bolt those in. That way, when I pull the form off of it, it's not going to take the blue guns with it. Yeah, next up, I went ahead and I cut some copper pipe. I mixed up a little bit more epoxy, and we went ahead and glued them onto the threaded barrel. That way, if it's knurled, we don't have to worry about it, and it's not going to catch it. And I actually went ahead and did it about a 1/4 inch longer, so we could cut it straight across and not have to worry about pretty much anything. So now, it's a waiting game.
And while the epoxy is setting in here, like I said, I have this on, as you can see right there. While the epoxy is setting in there, I'm going to move on to another build and let that sit for a little bit and just let it cure, and then I'll come back to it. So I'm going to move on, keep some orders flowing, and get going.
We are almost there. So I went ahead, added the steel stick right there and right here, because like I said, there's a big dip right there, and we're going to need that channel.
Do the same thing on the Hellcat and the Hellcat Pro. It is needed to get a good slide in, otherwise it sucks.
But so here it is. Now all I'm going to do is let it harden, and then I'm going to clean it up a little bit, you know, get some crap off and rub it down, and then we have to drill holes in it. And then we can go ahead and pull it back, and we're going to try our first holster.
I tell you what though, the next time I do this, or for your first attempt, do a gun that's not as meticulous as this, because this thing is absolutely nuts. So yeah, do something that has a lot less to it and a lot easier to do, but we'll see how it comes out. I'm looking forward to it, and yeah, I'm just gonna move on to another order, get that out, and just keep things moving while that dries. So I'll set it up, I'll work on it in like an hour or two. All right, ladies and gents, it is a few hours after the last time I started recording, and I have successfully completed 10 orders in the time it has taken to build this. So if you're new or just getting to this video and you didn't see the previous one, we are making a in-house split. And like I said, with all the epoxy drying and everything and the cutting and this and that and left and right, blah, 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 I was able to do a bunch of orders and get them out. So that's good. But let's look at what we have created.
And here's a split. Yeah, it's kind of ugly, but it is what it is. I mean, shit, I could throw a piece of paint on it, we'd be good. But anyways, yeah, everything's all hardened up. We are good to go. Now I have to destroy the creation by throwing holes in it. So, and that's what we need to do. So, just I'm going to treat it like every other build and drill it up, make it holy. I'm doing a practice pull with a membrane. This is what it looks like. Got a hole in the membrane, so I'm poking it. But not terrible. Let's do a pull.
Preheating the oven. If you're new to the channel and new to Kydex making, preheat your pad underneath. That gets the moisture out, and that stops the little bubbling you get in the Kydex. We have our piece of Kydex right here, and we have the QLS blocking on this holster or on the mold. So this is what it looks like, and hopefully it's going to come out pretty good. This is a test pull, and we're going to see how it is. Yes, Daddy. Woo! as you can tell, I'm freaking excited. That's a lot of work that went into this, and that looks pisser. So yeah, it is a lot of wasted material on this, so this is just you know, just to see how it goes. I will cut along the edges, I will cut up here, I'll make it so it's just a hair smaller, but the fact is, this is a massive gun. Inside looks pretty good. I got to clean it up a little bit, you know, there's a couple stragglers are in the kydex, but it'll come clean right off. So powder right here, no big deal, but that's not too bad. So I'm digging it. All right, with the 2 days of a lot of bad words and cussing myself out for messing up, I'm going to treat it like anything other. If you notice, there's no retention points. I was going to do that after the fact. So, because what I could do as well is make my own trim jig, and that's going to come down the road. I'm not going to do it this time because I feel like I've wasted enough time on it. Although, time's not really wasted. That's awesome. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to cut the outside perimeter, and then I'll go ahead, fold it, and we'll do our thing, baby. As you can see, I went ahead, drilled the holes. I laser cut those guys. Let's back up a little bit. And check this out. The retention plate is a little bit bigger than I anticipated, but that's okay, because, I mean, we have the technology here. And then we're going to still cut this. This is not the final shape. And we're just going to move forward. So this just means I need a little bit larger bushings, which, again, is no big deal. And the other fact is I have this all filled with epoxy, so it'll be just a little bit different, but it's not going to be terribly different. So, with that being said, let's mark the retention points. Let's mark them on this side. We'll throw one here. And we'll throw one there. Drill those out real quick. And now I'm just going to treat it like how I normally would. So, this is going to have to come down because of this curve right here. So we don't want it to end up here. We want it to come down quite far. All right. And we'll bring this up. And, I mean, we can cut it here. We could bring it up here a little bit. Let's see how this looks. I know some people have these with optics on them. And I'm going to cut this right here along the edge. And this one, I believe this gentleman said he had a cack on it, which means it's going to be an open bottom. But generally, we'd cut it right there. And come across. Like so, or, you know, match it up with body lines. There we go. Make it look a little bit appeasing. Like that right there. God, this looks good. Look how clean that is. Oh! Alright. Like I said, I'm going to do a flush cut on this one, so let's just cut it right here. And, let's see, let's line it up with that. Let's do that. So we're just going to cut bang, bang, bang. And it's going to look like this. Let's do a quick clean. I don't know about you guys, but I am so damn excited. Now, given this is the first one that I've made, the next ones are just going to come together quick. I'll tell you what, the next one I'll be making would be for the PSA Rock 5.7, because I have so many requests for IWBs and whatnot and tactical rigs that I would be pretty dumb not to do it. So, but sadly, Holstersmith is out of stock right now, so I will wait until they're back in stock, and I will go ahead and make one. Alright, let's throw these in. Come on. You can do it. There we go.
All right, now I'm not sure, like I said, on the... Oh, I'm missing... Oh, there it is. I might have to do half the size of these. I'm going to go see what I have. Right, here we go, partially smaller. Throw these on. These are 1/2 inch. So we got a lot of threads intact, but like I said, it's got a little bit of, because of the epoxy here, so, but you can see where I was talking about right there. Oh, this is fantastic. So, put it on here. I did have to heat it up a little bit in one spot, and we will chat about that shortly. I want to get the hardware on. This was with QLS. Alright, so what I did have to do is, remember we were chatting about this part right here, how it angles up, and that on the Hellcat and a couple other firearms, well, you have to do that. Well, I didn't do it enough, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the mold right here, and the only thing I have to do, my only complaint is I have to build this up taller because it's not tall enough. So I'm going to add that, and then the next holster should be perfect. But where it sits now is pretty good. And again, I have the epoxy in here anyway, but it goes right in, comes right out. So I am digging that right there. That is absolutely phenomenal.
I am so damn happy that this worked, and I want to thank you guys for coming along on this journey to see if we can do it. So we took this blue gun, 55, 60 bucks, something like that, and with a couple days work of stuff in between and scraps laying around, we turned it into this with lots of holes in it, bolts holding it in, and on the first press we had this. So there's a couple things that I noticed that I'm going to fill in. Like there's a little divot in the Bondo right here, so I'm going to mark that in. And then right here there's a little dip down. I didn't notice that, and that's with the steel stick, so we're going to do that. And then right here I have to add more to that because the retention is pretty much on that point. So it sucks into this point right here and whatnot. But all in all, what a great success. You know, the drawback is that it took a couple days. However, it's because of the firearm, because there's so many things that we had to fill in between this and this and this and this, yada, yada, yada. There was a lot we had to do, and not to mention I kept messing up on the CNC. I hit the wrong button and went the wrong direction. That's totally on me, but it is what it is. So now, like I said, I'm going to be doing this with the Rock, the PSA 5.7, and any other blue gun or whatever I could get my hands on, and that means that with the, actually, you know what? You'll see it in a later video because there's going to be more stuff on the market and more videos that we're going to do and see if we can push the limits on what we can do in the house. So now I have the HK Mark 23 available in vac, and that makes me happy. So again, huge shout out to Holstersmith and KnifeKits.com. Without them, a lot of this wouldn't be possible. Also, don't forget, the end of the month is coming quick, and for our 10,000 subscriber giveaway, which we're almost at 10.4 now, you are receiving 10% off your entire order at Holstersmith or KnifeKits.com, and that's good for 5 times by the end of the month. So you have until, what, Thursday? Something like that to get it done. And today's Tuesday, so you better hurry up and get some orders in. I personally already used all of them up. So thanks again, guys, and I will catch you guys on the next one. And remember, don't be afraid to cut some stuff up. You never know what will happen. This came out good, and I am stoked. See you later.